Well, I had a video I was going to upload. It said something like Don Henley going forward with the Eagles, and it was a very toxic video. So I think that what it was really saying was saying that pursuing YouTube and taking down videos. Rick uh, Bedos, Rick, I think this is Bedos, the guy that plays the guitar, the guy that's like in the '60s, the friend of Lyle Mays, and all that stuff. He was pursuing Don Henley and the Eagles in one of his videos, and he said that he was talking with a buddy of his, and he said, "Did you know that they have like 60 people working full time for them that are going up on YouTube and taking stuff down full time? That's a $10 million operation right there that you're talking about. So they're tossing $10 million out the window every year to take down their Eagles content off of YouTube, so it's not up there. And Don, uh, Joe, Don, Joe, you guys, you know, maybe you should go and talk to Don Felder about this one. He's probably going to come in and say, you guys, there's a better way to do this. Let's come up with something better. And I think it's on that other video, Don Henley. If you love yourself, you see this video. Their solution is, and you don't have to look very far, and just look at what Abba's doing right now, and they're in the same. They're in your shoes as well. I mean, you're in their shoes. You guys are way too old to go out and do concerts. You know, you don't have the energy to do that shit anymore, and I know that. But look at what they're doing now. Their idea. You could do that right now. You could. I don't say that you. I don't think it's bad that you're giving people some work, but it's a desperate, futile attempt to try to make back on what right now is a crumbling economy, and people are losing work. They're not going to be able to have the money to throw at buying other people, or they're going to buy into Spotify, and so you're not. I mean, how much are you actually getting from Spotify? And so why take it down off of YouTube? It's just greater potential that your content, that you're going to gain the love of somebody out there. And so you've got this fertile need for your content out there that's brewing, and you don't know how to harvest it. And how you harvest it is by turning to Mark Zuckerberg, who's brand. He's trying to rebrand his company and all this stuff, and he's completely at a loss for ideas. And so I would just have Mark and Don and Mark basically get together with all of those musicians and all those artists out there that are eager to be making some money, and you've got this walled garden, this Oculus walled garden, and I would not hold it back. It says in the Bible, do not hold back good. You've got something good there. You have a chance to salvage your people's perception of you, Mark, and rather than getting sucked into the black hole of Facebook, you have this chance to get to salvage your the people's perception of you by reassociating yourself with something that other people like, which is the music of their youth. Remember, when Microsoft got big, and Bill Gates, and you probably heard this story, Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer and Paul Allen is like getting really sick, and Steve and Bill Gates are sitting there discussing. Paul's got some stock in the company, and we're going to have to fight him over with that stock, or whoever. It could bring us down. And Paul got wind of that, and he said, "Okay, I'm out of here. I'm tired of dealing with you guys, and I'm dealing with an illness here. I'm out of here. I'll let you guys deal with the company." And then he goes over and spends a wad of money on the first of its ever kind outside of Woodstock, the US Festival. It came before Band Aid. It actually inspired Band Aid. When people saw what the US Festival did, it boosted MTV. It got all those musicians that were on MTV into a live audience, and it gave guys like what's his name of the Boomtown Rats? What's his name? Bob Geldof. It gave Bob Geldof shivers, and he's like, "This is what I need to do, and the stuff that's happening in Africa, we could fix that if we had this Band-Aid thing." And then he went and pressured all these groups. I had heard that he told Queen that you're going to go to hell if you don't do this, and Queen kind of passed on it. It's like, no, we'll save that for later. I mean, he was saying this to people, and people were just like, don't, dude, isn't that important or whatever. But they came, they weren't in Band-Aid, they were in Live Aid, the one that came after that, the second one. And that's the last that Mercury and them was on, or it wasn't Mercury and last they were on stage, it was the last that Wham was on stage. But that was kind of when people kind of decided that was it, I'm going to stop, I'm going to let it be, I'm not going to be I'm not going to be doing this anymore, because this is the last big shindig. And there was bigger shindigs that came after that, or not bigs but similar, and that was the Farm Aid. And that was a result of John Mellencamp saying, I could help the good old boys back in the farm country from where I come from that are having to deal with all of these, the government buyouts and all this stuff that they're trying to survive, and they don't have enough money to buy the machinery and equipment to compete with the big boys that are coming in and farming, the old farmers are not being able to. So he came up with a way of kind of bailing them out of their situation. I think that thing's still going on, I'm not sure. But that was John Mellencamp doing that. But John Mellencamp, Bob Geldof, but who started all of that? Paul Allen, with the US Festival. And so when you see the US Festival, think of the guy who got Bill Gates, when Bill Gates was dealing with IBM and saying, we do have an operating system. Who does he turn to? Paul Allen. Paul Allen was the guy who was the real brains of Paul Allen was the engineer. Bill Gates was just, a college dropout type that you've probably seen photos of Paul Allen and Bill Gates together, and it looks like this. It looks like this tall teenager type, and here's Bill Gates, this little schoolboy sitting down at a teletype typewriter terminal that doesn't even have a screen. I've seen the photo, and I'm just like, how did this tall teenager guy get in contact with this little schoolboy kid, this 10-year-old or whatever? And they had a little bit of distance between their ages, It was probably the case that Paul Allen was working at a computer facility, and in walks this kid and wants to do something, and that's how they got befriended. Or maybe they knew each other from school, but, I'm just like, Paul Allen was ahead of Bill. And it was Paul Allen and Bill that started Microsoft. Steve Ballmer came later. He was the like their first hire, when they were forming their company. And they started, actually, that's wrong. They had a big old crew of people working on software at Microsoft. I guess the thing was, is maybe Bill Gates, maybe Steve Ballmer was part of that crew, or he came in later into the company to help them learn how to grow it, because he's like the MBA, the guy that comes in and helps you grow the company. So I don't know the whole story there, and so as an example, I'm talking through my hat. What I'm remembering is what I remember of the documentary by X Kringley about Triumph of the Nerds. That's the limit of my knowledge on that stuff. And Triumph of the Nerds is that if you want to learn about that stuff, You could read the books and you would know more than I do. No, because I don't really read books. What I do is I eat documentaries, and documentaries are not really dependable, and they're not dependable for fine information, but they're enough to inspire you, and that's one of my favorite documentaries is that, and X Creeley, by the way, is not the guy's name. That's his pen name. He's he's really a kind of a Dear Abby type. He's a guy hiding behind a persona because he was in when he started writing his column. If anybody knew who he was, he would lose his sources of information because he was this person that was in the trenches with all of these guys like Steve Jobs and stuff. And so he had access to information. So he was leaking information through this alter ego. And then he just finally had, I guess, enough money and got some funding from public broadcasting system and put together put together a series that would run in over maybe 3 weeks, I would guess. And so a part of the video for each week. And it gave something, it gave PBS an incentive for their audience to keep watching PBS for content. And that's where that video series showed up. I'm relatively sure that's where it showed up. And I just remembered something. Dick Cavett had a video series called Remember When on HBO, and that was something I really liked whenever I was a kid, because part of that was using video tricks, using chroma keys and gin locks, so that he could actually pretty much embed himself inside of a old rustic black and white footage from the 1920s or 1930s. And maybe somebody out on YouTube has collected together all of those bits and clips where Dick Cavett's inside of trying to inform people about the old days, And that series was pretty much the same as Connections, the English guy that goes around and tells you how all the items, how this item had to do with that one. And he said that the invention of the crossbow was what permitted the Renaissance, because now they were able to more cheaply perform more, and they had all this extra time to do other stuff. And that's when they started taking up art and music and stuff, and that's when the Renaissance started, was with the invention of the crossbow, because it made things more efficient. Anyhow, so the US Festival, and so you have to put some money into something in order to get money out, it's very simple. There are people out there that, and the other video will tell you the same thing. There are people out there that have accessibility issues. We realized this in Altspace whenever the Burning Man came into Altspace, and then the people that managed Burning Man started talking to people that they thought were upright and like them, and then come to find out that they were people that were handicapped and couldn't move and could never ever go to Burning Man, and came to the realization that there were people there that were not being represented, that could never go into that situation because they would need to have a nurse on hand or a doctor, and they were just as worthy in being that situation as anybody else. So they lacked a certain amount of the integrity that they thought they had. They thought they were integrating everybody together, but they were only integrating about 75% of the people out there. There was a 25% of the pie that they were not ever able to address, and that was the people with accessibility issues. And I mean, they'd get somebody in a wheelchair, but they're not going to get somebody that's that's hospital bound that really wants to go to Burning Man. And there are people that are hospital bound as a result of COVID, or they're having to undergo kidney. They're having to undergo what is it? Um, Dialysis. They're sitting in there receiving dialysis. What the fuck are they going to do? Watch TV? How about a VR headset and they get to go into alt space and the time passes away while they're getting their dialysis? Time passes away, it just melts away while they're getting dialysis, and they're or whatever it is that's causing them to be bedbound for a certain amount of time. They're getting this opportunity to have a different kind of experience while they're undergoing something that's less pleasurable. Okay, that would be the same case for anybody that's in a hospital. It would be a great way for the doctors to be able to give a stress relief to all of their, to the people that are in there. You have VR headsets, have iPads, have access to virtual universes. The kids are already doing it with Roblox and Rec Room. You can do that on an iPad with Minecraft, but that's not immersive. Immersive is a whole lot much more fun to have immersive. So we got Mark Zuckerberg over here, who's his reputation is getting tossed in the trash. He's rebranding, which is not going to fix the problem. The best thing he can do is just disown his baby, though that sounds like shooting his foot off. It's a faith jump. You're doing a faith jump there, Mark. You're doing something that I've never been able to do, and that is take the leap of faith. And the leap of faith here is to drop Facebook, let somebody else deal with it, go over to your Oculus, and maybe take all of the Instagrams, and rather than having super set company that is just going to get tainted with the Facebook and all of, people are not going to associate good feelings with that super company. All that's going to happen is you're just going to be dealing with the same beast of trying to get away from the black hole, the imploding star, Facebook, that's just going to suck in all of your other things out there in terms of reputation. So the solution here is to start anew, take a leap of faith, start anew, and move to another town. And the another town is Oculus. And in that you create this metaverse or this Horizons or whatever, stick to that, stay over there, only be involved in that. So whenever they bring you into the picture, you say, no, I've only been dealing with that stuff over there. It's all doing its own thing. I'm not involved with it anymore. I've just got some stock in it. Okay, that's all that I'm doing over there. And then you can rebrand you, because that's what's important here, is rebranding you. And Facebook, as with any kind of corporation, it's an individual, and people are going to go over there and try to make it work and keep it working. It's not going to grow, but do you really need to grow that thing? It's already exploited what it can exploit. People are not going to invest in it because there are already people hacking out there. My mother lost her account recently, and there's no solution to this problem of having you guys go in there and remove it. And the solution that I'm giving to all our friends is to unfriend her, and then we're going to open up another Facebook account, or maybe not. We may go with somebody else, with whoever your competitor is, because there's bound to be a competitor out there. And as this stuff is happening to you, all this bad publicity and all this, and this last-ditch effort to rebrand, what's happening is there are guys out there like Google and whatnot. They're preparing for the complete tsunami of Facebook users that are going to leave Facebook and join something better. So you're going to start losing people from your Facebook. So the thing is just disown it. Put it aside. Get involved with Oculus. Go and get all these artists and musician types, and we're going to create a renaissance inside the Oculus headset. It's a new medium. Nobody really understands how it's not. We've gotten past the point, us Oculus users, have gotten past the point of it being novelty. And there are a lot of us 3D, and I'm a 3D stereogram user, and I've made stereograms and stuff before that. I've got VR180 cameras and all that stuff. I'm what you call a hobbyist, that I buy into the bleeding edge technology because I really want to do all the stuff that I've always dreamed of doing stuff with. And you get guys like me or that know the technologies, and you go out there and you get the musicians on stage, or you get 3D artists to create replicas of all the Eagles, and you do the texturing stuff to make them all look young, deep faking, whatever it is they're going to come up with, and create either VR180 videos or create Mechama things that you can go in and explore and listen to Don Henley playing the drums, and actually sit behind Don Henley to see him playing the drums. And it's not Don Henley, it's a 3D representation of him back whenever he was youthful. You don't see him as an old Don Henley. And maybe maybe the motion data comes from Don Henley, maybe it comes from somebody else, maybe the face comes from Don Henley. It's all Don Henley's choice of how that plays out. But this is what you can do. This is how you can rebrand yourself, Mark. This is how you can put away this crap that hit the fan. You know, this thing that's destroying the social media experience, the social experiment that is starting to fail. I mean, it's great technology, but it's run its course. I mean, everybody I know with Facebook are just kind of sick of it. I'm going to Reddit. I'm not really messing with Facebook as much with groups and stuff. I'm going to Reddit. I think a lot of people are going to Reddit. And Reddit's a lot more fun than Facebook in that respect with groups. What am I doing with my wall? My friends don't even see stuff on my wall. I mean, who are you fooling? They're not reading stuff off of my wall. I'm maybe reading stuff off of their wall. But we all know that nobody sees our stuff that we're posting. It's almost because there's something going on behind the scenes that keeps us from seeing each other's walls. And so the thing is that you probably should just disown it. Let it do its own thing. Let other people with ideas work it, and then just come over every now and just see how things are going. You could continue to be the hood ornament of the company, the poster child for this enterprise. I know you hate to hear that thing. It is, and I know you don't like being disrespected, but everybody, I mean, you probably don't understand Christian perspective, but Christian perspective is that we're all sinners. Everyone's a sinner. And what is a sin? It's basically the opposite of God's will. And what's God's will? And God's will is serving each other. So what sin really is selfishness. Okay, selflessness is good. Selfishness is bad. So rather than look at the love of money as the root of all evil, look at greed as the root of all evil, because that's really what's being said there. Selfish gain of money, selfish gain of something, selfish gain of ego, selfish gain of, in my case, porn, you know. And porn? yeah. That we're all sucking in something out of the world. And, you know, and the reason why is because we get these dopamine puffs in our brain that reinforce relationships with the things that, you know, it's kind of like being addicted to a drug, and running a business that was feeding your ego for some time, and it's not feeding your ego anymore, and you're going out there getting the drug, but it's not making you feel good anymore, and you just get super depressed and stuff. That's what's going on with you right now, Mark. And so if you're trying to figure it out. That's what's going on, is that you've basically become addicted to the stimulus and this need to get pats on the back, and now you're having to pay people to pat you on the back. You know, you're having to pay people to satisfy your ego and all that stuff. And after a while, you'll come to the realization that nobody gives a shit. And so the thing to do is to salvage this is get away from the thing that's sucking you down, and get in and let people know how much of a fan of VR you are. Let people know something about your tastes in art or music or stuff like that. Don't say you're like an Eagles fan or anything like that. Just say, I really like music. I really like art. I like this. I like, and run your own little, you know, share with people some kind of hobby you have. Do a master class, you know, give a little bit of you know, so people can get to know you, because we don't know anything about you. All we hear is what these news organizations pop up and say you're, you know, they're demonifying you and Bezos and all these other guys that are actually providing value. And what's happening is they're dragging you down. Anytime a politician becomes president, gets in the presidency, the first thing he does is he finds that one thing to get people focused on while he tries to do something important. It's either it's a war, or it's some sort of goal, some sort of target. You get people interested in that target so you can go off and do more important stuff. Because if you don't have something to show them, if you don't have any signs of life, then they're going to look to you and say, okay, what the hell are you doing? And then they're going to want to get into the nitty gritty of all the other stuff that you're having to do that won't really show any benefits, you know, the fruits that are not going to show any benefits now, but are going to take some time to come to. And it's basically it's basically smoke and mirrors type game. You're a magician. Once you're up there, you're trying to keep people excited, keep people amused, keep people mystified. You're basically entertaining the public, but in a way that you're trying to unveil things over time. You know, God doesn't lie. God unveils stuff, reveals stuff. Okay, and we don't know everything. God has access to lots of stuff. Okay, and we're only seeing a little sliver of all the things that God can do. So, in the same way that you're running the company, even though you probably don't believe in God, just go with me on this, okay? You're running the company. You've got a little bit of a sliver that you push all your products through. There, you've got some other stuff over here. You're having to do a magic act. You're going to having to bring out stuff that's going to wow people, and you have to work on stuff behind the scenes that's secretive and all that stuff. I don't think people think of Facebook the same way as they would think of the Oculus or of some hardware, software platform. I don't know how much of that hardware is actually. I know you bought up Oculus, so it isn't that Oculus is something that was a result of your doing. You bought up Oculus, but you can go over there and you can be the representative that talks to the musicians, the artists, or you can bring your entourage to their door and talk to them about, ask them what you could do, and give them what you're doing with your platform, and ask them. They're small fries compared to you. I know that, but if you bring them in and you come up with a method of putting them up on a pedestal, all those bands and artists, they're going to thank you later, and their fans are going to thank you later, and you'll have content to stick in your story. Because what is the big problem right now with Oculus? Not enough content, not enough apps, not enough content. You have nothing pushing this puppy forward, and that's the problem you've got right now. You've got this great potential of these Oculus headsets, the VR, and you've got nothing pushing that puppy forward. And at the same time, this Facebook thing over here, the black hole is sucking you in, and everybody with it. It's sucking you in business-wise. It's sucking you in ego-wise. It's sucking you in every aspect. The best thing to do is get away from it. Take a leap, jump over there to Oculus and keep trucking.